Hi, everybody. We have a special treat today. I am Elena Fournet, founder of the Intentional Living Project and transformational wellness coach. And today I have with me holistic nutritionist Kat Dillon, who is going to share with us 3 things that we might be doing that could be sabotaging our healthy eating plans. And as we love here at the Intentional Living Project, she's also going to share with us some practical strategies of things that we can do right now so that we can get to and stick with our healthy eating plans. Kat, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks, Elena.
I'm wondering if to get started, you could share just a brief version of your story and what got you into this work today.
Well, it's a really quite a long story. There's so many things that paved my interest in helping others through practicing my holistic nutrition. I've always been interested since being a young child in eating right, or at least thinking that I was eating right. I went to university where I studied nutrition. I majored in nutrition and I minored in dance. And when I was studying nutrition, I learned that fat was the devil and bread and pasta were good for you. This is back in the early 80s. I also danced for the dance company there at the university, and that didn't help much because I was inundated with that philosophy that the thinner is the better. And I also worked as an aerobics instructor, so if I wasn't dancing, teaching, or studying, I was eating fat-free and counting calories. Everything that I ate was counted for. So I began experiencing lots of gut issues, lots of skin issues. I lost my period, and I realized that things had to change. So I finally got my life back into balance temporarily with the help of a great natural medicine practitioner, and I read books on wellness and food. And then I ended up enrolling in culinary school and started working in restaurants and personal chefing for many years. Then as a personal trainer, where I think that is what motivated me most to get back into the field of nutrition once again, because it was obvious to me that lots of clients did not want to change their eating, but they would come in and work out to try to lose the weight. And most of them really never achieved their goals. And if they did, it was pretty much temporary. And so I figured that there's got to be something else that was missing. They were only looking at the physical side of things in the working out, but not the food and not the emotional stress they experience, the late nights, lack of sleep, or the poor digestion. So that's when I began studying holistic nutrition and also functional nutrition.
Great. So your own personal journey has led to this passion of helping other people. And it sounds like you really like to help them identify where maybe they've had some beliefs because of what we've been told for so many years, and getting to change those beliefs. Like you can actually enjoy some fat-filled foods.
Exactly.
So, Kat, when your clients come to you, what are they seeking, or what are their goals usually?
Elena, a lot of them are really coming in for the same stuff. I see a lot of the same. So I would have to say, lots of weight resistance, fatigue, migraines, hormonal issues, gut ailments, whether it's, constipation or diarrhea or stomach aches, a lot of skin problems, and just basically a lot of inflammatory issues. A lot of them they just don't feel right. And doctors will tell them, it's all in your head, or these things are normal part of aging. A lot of them get antidepressants just because the doctors don't know what to do with them. And basically they were just told to just go out and lower their stress. So much of the work that we do is finding those hidden stressors in the body, the ones that are the silent ones. People don't really get to know too much until they're pointed out. And those are the ones that lead to the complaints that are not normal, like the doctors say, but common. So I like to use that version of the word. Is these stressors or these chronic symptoms are common. They're definitely not normal. So basically we just find a way to deal with these using different methods, mainly addressing diet, then rest, exercise, stress reduction, supplementation. I call it the Dress for Success program that I offer. with my practice.
I love how you said that, finding the hidden stressors. I know we're so fortunate to be in a time where functional medicine is helping us to understand the way every system in the body impacts every other system. And I know people often are in disbelief when they find out that, they had something going on in their gut that was causing their migraine, or, all the ailments that don't seem to be related. And when they can find out from that functional level that they find themselves actually starting to feel better.
Right, right. And a lot of it is stuff that happened a long time ago. Lots of it, sometimes people will come to me and they'll just say, I just wasn't the same after that trip to Tahiti or that trip to, India. I was just, something's just not right a lot of the times.
Yeah. Yeah. So, Kat, let's get into the three things. What is it that people are doing that sabotage their healthy eating plans?
Right, right. So I'm going to say the first biggie is that all calories are created equal. I believe that eliminating the calorie counting is going to be the best thing we can all do, because it just doesn't work. It's exhausting, it's obsessive, and it really dulls the soul. I don't believe that any calories are created equal. Another thing to keep in mind is that long-term dieting is a good thing. So the only thing that will do is reduce your metabolic rate. If you were to cut calories, let's say by 10%, it would work for some time until your metabolic rate would adapt, and then you're going to stop losing, and then you'll have to cut calories once again, and then again, and then again. So basically what that is in a nutshell is the body's desperate attempt to maintain its fat mass. That's called the set point theory, the set point, and that's regulated by that hypothalamus gland. And so if you don't change your diet, only this amount of food that you eat, then the set point is not going to change. So if your weight goes below your set point, your brain responds by decreasing your calorie expenditure. So, and also increasing your calorie intake. So here's an example for you. So 100 calories of fructose, that does not impact your satiety. That's just going to lead to an increased appetite. 100 calories of protein, let's say the 30% of the calories in protein are going to be spent on digestion, because its metabolic pathway actually requires the energy to do so. So also that protein is going to build muscle, which is in turn metabolically active tissue. So those two groups are completely different when it comes to what is happening in the body physiologically.
Okay, so the whole idea of calorie counting, it's been around for so long and is ingrained in so many of our brains. For those people that have really been eating low calorie diets and have been really cautious about the number of calories they eat, and let's say they're concerned that maybe now they do have a low metabolic rate, what things can they do to start turning this pattern around?
That's a great question. I really recommend to a lot of my clients that they try food journaling, and also really, really getting into touch with the experience of how a food or a meal, a snack, makes them feel. So I really like to teach paying more close attention to quality of the food, whether it's building you, whether it's nourishing you and healing you. Low calorie foods just spike blood sugar levels and cause that surge of insulin and just stores more fat. And we really have so much less to gain from that. So I really prefer just really paying attention to those slow release foods, the great proteins and healthy fats, and some carbohydrates that are wonderful, lots of plant food, just really balancing the diet and really paying that close attention of really how it's making you feel.
I really like the concept of mindful eating and just becoming really familiar with, like you're saying, how the foods make us feel, And I like that you pointed out, after eating a meal high in sugar, we might notice that we actually are hungrier. So I just like how you're pointing out to pay attention, to notice how you feel, notice what foods help you to feel fuller longer, or feel more energized.
Yeah, so a good thing to do instead is to really, like I said, pay attention and also slow down. I like to say, what I like to do is count my chews if I'm feeling kind of stressed. And I know that I'm going into a meal where I'm nervous about something on my mind, or I have something to do afterwards. Either count my chews, or another thing is a good, just having gratitude, taking about 10 to 20 seconds to just think about where that food came from. It doesn't have to be a religious thing. It's just something that, you're thinking about the soil that the food was grown in, the person that picked the food for you, the person that brought it to the farmer's market or to the store, to wherever it's coming from, and it getting to you and nourishing you. So that whole kind of sustenance cycle, and letting that slow you down, and letting that, because so much of this too is really, when we're nourishing our body, it's not just what the foods are, it's how they're broken down, how they're released and absorbed. And if you're rushing through a meal, I guarantee you that those enzymes that are supposed to be there doing the work to break those food particles down to nourish you are either absent or at least shown less. So really great thing to do is to slow down.
Great. Great. So what's the second thing that we're doing that may be sabotaging our healthy eating?
Yeah. So this is like the anti-80s kind of tip here. Fat makes you fat. I don't know, that was 80s and the 90s, all the way up to, some people still think that fat makes you fat. But so fat is, quality fat is wonderful for improving insulin sensitivity, reducing inflammation, and supporting metabolism. Saying cholesterol's always had a bad name, but we're noticing now that the research is showing, even common day research, not just, the holistic avenues. This is just mainstream. They're finally realizing that cholesterol is more beneficial than we thought. That cholesterol is needed to make hormones, and it alters brain chemicals linked with mood. Cholesterol also regulates more than 100 genes involved in transmitting messages between brain cells. So it really is a brain mind important for that as well. So really, also the digestion of fat triggers satiation. So you're going to eat less overall. And of course, that just tastes good. I don't know if you were ever one to do this, but I remember we used to douse our salads and our vegetables with vinegar and lemon and herbs, and it was so boring. Now we know that you need fat so you absorb your fat soluble vitamins. So if you eat vegetables and you don't have any fat with your vegetables, you're not going to have the benefits of eating of those nourishing fat soluble vitamins and antioxidants. So really important, that fat.
Okay, so what are some examples of different foods that have like you mentioned, the healthy fat or the quality fat?
Yeah. Well, healthy fats, I love coconut oil, avocado, nuts and seeds, and of course, saturated fats from animal sources. Best sources of animal fats are eggs, pasture-raised, organic, grass-fed beef and chicken, buffalo, wild-caught fish, and I like a lot of game. It's harder to find wild game, but you can find if you go to either a farmer's market or look up. There are some markets out there, depending on where you are. If you're somewhere in the cities, it's easier to find. Of course, rural, you're going to probably have good connections, but right in between, you might not be able to find it. But definitely elk, buffalo, venison, that kind of thing. I like these, of course, fish and game. Game is really high in omega-3s, especially fishes too. cold water fish like salmon and sardines and mackerel, that kind of thing. Smaller fish, the better, less mercury, so you have to be careful about that. So eat smaller fish. And that omega-3 is super great in fighting inflammation. Also, I like to recommend, if you can tolerate dairy, full-fat dairy, if you're not sensitive, can be wonderful. You can, dairy has a lot of wonderful things in it, especially, like I'm saying, the grass-fed and pasture-raised. We've got the butyrate in full-fat dairy. That's going to give energy to the cells lining the colon and combat inflammation of the gut. And then there's phytanic acid, which is another fatty acid, and that actually reduces triglycerides and improves insulin sensitivity. And then you have something called CLA, and that's known as conjugated linolenic acid. And that is a natural trans fat, and that can reduce the risk of heart disease and diabetes. So if you can tolerate dairy, preferably raw dairy, if you can find someone around your area, and you can probably look up Weston Price Foundation and look for your area on their website, and you can find a raw milk producer in your area that might work for you. But those seem to be, I think, my main go-tos for healthy fats.
Great. Kat, I'm really excited to hear you talk about dairy that way. I feel like lately dairy gets such a bad rap that it's become a forbidden food.
Right. No forbidden foods. Just it really is really individual, I find. I know that there's a lot of fear out there and unnecessary fear. I think that, we've got great avenues for sources of health, like, the paleo movement, but somehow I think we need to be careful of kind of this doctrine of ways to eat, because of that. We all need a different system and approach to eating. So I think as long as we're including the healthy fats, the healthy plant foods, and getting sufficient protein from good quality sources, like I mentioned, that's great. But I think we can also play around with things that are supposedly not good for us. Mm-hmm. Now, I'm not talking sugar, of course, but things like dairy and grains and this and that.
Yeah, great. So what's the third thing we're doing to sabotage our healthy eating plan?
The third is really not being aware of where the sugar is hiding in our food. So number one is really looking at, try not to look at the labels, because labels, of course, when I say labels, I don't mean things like yogurt or something with minimal ingredients that you're buying in a package, like unprocessed kefir or something else that you're eating that's a very minimal ingredient list. What I'm talking about and referring to here are those ingredient labels with 10 or more items, processed foods that really the body doesn't know what to do with. The labels you want to look for, the ingredients on those labels should be the ones that are the OSES, the OSES. So that's going to be, dextrose, maltose, and all those things that are actually sugars in the product. Also, diet foods. You want to steer clear of the fat-free, the sugar-free, because they're likely inundated with other kinds of sugar that aren't called sugar. Ready-made sauces, ready-made soups, that kind of thing. Of course, soft drinks. Yogurts are a big one here. It's so funny. I'll tell you a quick story about yogurt. My in-law in Toronto has diabetes, and their English is not their first language. So my mother-in-law always says that, we're doing so well taking care of him, and this is my father-in-law, obviously. He's eating yogurt and before he goes to bed, and he's doing just so great. Well, come to find that feeding them yogurt, like Yoplait yogurt, which has colorings and sugar. I think it's probably like at least 26 to 30 grams. I could be wrong, but it's high in sugar. And they think that they're, doing something great for diabetes. I'm just cringing. Um, then we go with energy bars, that kind of thing. There are some energy bars out there that are very minimally processed, others that have, over 10 ingredients. Look at the sugar. Even new varieties, if you can believe this, new varieties of apples, they're actually bred for higher sweetness. Definitely avoid juices and stick to things like coconut water or water. If you enjoy juice, maybe water it down by half. And synthetic sweeteners. You'll just, if you can't pronounce an ingredient, I guarantee you it's probably not something you want to put in your body.
So do you have some favorite alternatives or things that you recommend your clients have when maybe they need to satisfy a sweet tooth?
Absolutely. Yeah. Who doesn't want to satisfy a sweet tooth now and then? I do, Elena. I really am a huge proponent of coconut butter. It's just got that texture and the sweetness that's natural. There's no added sugar to it. Although there could be some coconut butters out there with added sugar at this point. Just what I do is I recommend the coconut manna. It's a beautiful coconut flesh in a jar. There's a layer of coconut oil on top, and then if you go dig in there, there's some just incredible, it's basically like chunks of coconut that kind of melt in your mouth. And I happen to just think this is just the best thing on the face of the planet. The other thing I do is I tell my clients to mix coconut butter and sunflower butter. And you have to make sure that the temperatures are very similar. You can warm them up in, let's say, a pot of hot water. Just place the glass jar that's closed in the submerge that in the hot water, and then wait till it's softened. And then I take a nice big scoop of the sunflower butter and a nice big scoop of the coconut butter, and I throw in a little bit, maybe a sprinkle or two of cacao nibs, the unsweetened cacao nibs, and I mix that up together, and I make them into little rounds. So you can just take a spoon and put, just make a dollop on either a glass, a cookie sheet, or even just a glass plate. It's preferable if you get like wax paper underneath that glass plate. And I refrigerate it, and all it takes is maybe 10 to 15 minutes. You take it out, and I mean to tell you, you are eating a truffle right there. No sugar at all, but just the most amazing texture. Now, keep in mind, if you do want to share these with friends at work, they do melt after you take them out of the refrigerator. But really great. It's going to stabilize your blood sugar. You're not going to have that up and down. You're going to satisfy that sweet tooth, and you'll have that burst of flavor that's sweet without really being sweet. One more thing I want to recommend is that you can get something called L-glutamine. It's an amino acid in a powder. That if you take a teaspoon of that in water, that really helps sugar cravings. I recommend that a bit. One more thing. I'm sorry, Elena. I'm just a tipaholic. I love giving tips. The cinnamon.
Bring them on.
Yeah, cinnamon is great. And you can actually put some cinnamon in the little energy dollops that I told you about, in the sunflower and the coconut butter. But just putting cinnamon in a lot of things, like if you're making yourself an almond latte, or if you're having a smoothie, or whatever you're making, put some cinnamon in it. That really helps stabilize the blood sugar level, and it adds flavor without sweetness. It just kind of gives you that little sweet edge. And of course, using sugar substitutes like stevia and I think it's lucuma powder I use. But I will give you a little bit of a word of warning, is that try not to rely on these healthy natural sugar substitutes to satisfy every single urge. Try to give yourself a little bit of time without sweetness, and I'll tell you why. Because really, honestly, you're not really taking away those urges. They're just sort of progressing as you give the sweet taste to your body. So one way to work around that is to try a little sour now and then. And what I do is I recommend fermented foods, because that gives you a little taste of sour that you actually grow into, and you will actually crave sweet things a little bit less when you have a little bit more tang in your palate. So it's all about palate adjustment and really getting away from always having to have something sweet. So yeah, and then also that sunflower and coconut butter, there's a recipe on my website for that. If you go to my blog, it's Caterpillar Nutrition and Wellness. There is, you just go in a little box for the blog to search for the sunflower coconut butter cookies.
That's great. And you know what, Kat, there's a little background noise, and I'll just let our listeners know that we will make sure to have a link to your website underneath this interview, so that it's really easy for people to click and go find the recipe for those little energy bars. Kat, thank you so much for all of the incredible information, as well as amazing tips for what we can do to stay on our eating plan so that we can feel our absolute best. I know you have a gift for our listeners. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. I have a Preventing Healthy Eating Sabotage cheat sheet, as well as a food and mood cheat sheet. Well, that's not a cheat sheet. That's just a little journal. So both of those are PDFs, and those will be linked to, I guess we'll put them on the bottom of the notes here.
Yeah.
That Elena is giving. Great. And then 3 also is I have a downloadable week email, or rather e-menu plan that's available to all of you. And that includes shopping list, recipes, and a menu for a week. So that's also available on my website.
Great. Thank you so much. Again, Kat, thank you so much for your time and your wisdom. We'll be looking forward to having you back to the Intentional Living Project soon.
Thanks, Elena. I really enjoyed it.
And everybody, we'd love to hear from you. Please post below what you heard that you like, what's helpful, and what else you need to know to stay on your healthy eating plan. And we'll look forward to seeing you all at the start of next month as we dig back into optimal health. Bye, everyone.